Here is the Big Sil's dream team who I'd like to see on opening day for the Philadelphia Eagles. This is the roster I'm hoping that they start the season with. Let's go offense because it's pretty academic, isn't it? Hurts. DeAndre Swift, running back. A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith, your wideouts. Quez in the 3-hole. Dallas Goedert. Dude, this sounds like an all-pro team. Your tight end. Jordan Mailata, who I expect will be a Pro Bowler this year. Dream team makes me cringe. GG, not this one. Not this one. Landon Dickerson, who I think, do you understand that I think that 4 of the 5 guys that are in your O-line could probably be Pro Bowlers this year? Mailata, Dickerson, Kelsey, Juergens, Lane. Here, Lane, Pro Bowl. Kelsey, Pro Bowl. Dickerson, Pro Bowl. Mailata, Pro Bowl. Goddard, Pro Bowl. Devontae Smith, Pro Bowl. AJ, Pro Bowl. Hurts, Pro Bowl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 80 or 11 have a chance to be Pro Bowlers. And Swift maybe too, playing behind that line. You may have 9 guys out of your 11 in offense going to the Pro Bowl this year. Okay. Yeah. That's a pretty good-looking group. Now, here is my defense dream team. Okay? Whole line could be Pro Bowlers. Well, dude, this guy Juergens. So look at what Cam Juergens has. Who's coaching me? Well, the best O-line coach in the NFL. Okay? Who's on my right side? Hall of Famer in Lane Johnson. Who's on my left side? Hall of Famer in Kelsey. I think my shot of being a Pro Bowler, I think it's pretty good. I mean, how many times do you play on each side of you Hall of Fame players? And guys that are really good still, not guys that are out of their – Hey, by the way, before I get to the defensive side, Kelsey's, the 2 brothers doing their podcast. I love what Jason Kelsey said about Jalen Carter. I love it. He's like, that's the kind of kid you gamble on. That's the kind of kid you take a shot at. That kid's got too much talent not to take a chance on. Perfectly said, perfectly done. He liked him when they brought him up for one of the 30 dudes in the interview, and he liked him when he saw him once he became an Eagle. And he said, you know what I took away from it? He never thought he was better than anybody. He seemed like a humble kid, and he seemed like a guy who wanted to just come in and be a part of a group. Dude, that's my kind of dude. I love that. You won me over. And you know why you won me over? Because one of the leaders in your locker room have been won over. Jason Kelsey, unless Jalen Carter does some dumb shit, has won Jason Kelsey over already. He's won Jason Kelsey. Listen to his podcast too. Kelsey tells you he's basically won him over. Holy shit, do you know how hard that is to win over a veteran guy like that? When you walk into a room, those guys look at rookies and those guys look at people that have not been part of the group as outcasts. You got a lot to prove, son, before you get respect from anybody. And when I heard Jason Kelsey saying that, and I heard Jason Kelsey talking like that, that was a great thing, man. That was a super thing. Great. Hey, Peter, what's up with I got to tell you Jamie Foxx. I'll tell you Jamie Foxx story after we do. Remind me, guys, I want to do the Jamie Foxx story on any given Sunday. I think I told some of you the story. Big Sills was kind of like a stunt dummy in that thing. You know, they filmed it at the Orange Bowl, right? I'll get to it here in a minute. I'll get to it, I promise. Let me know if he's okay, okay? Here is my dream defensive football team. Okay? Joe, that's right. Make the playoffs to that prediction. Don't let them off the hook. Joe, as you see, what Joe doesn't tell you is the whole truth. I said as of, go back and watch the clip. 3-13-23. The Eagles will not make the playoffs. Don't let Joe off the hook for telling you half the story. Make sure Joe tells you the entire story. Because as of that date, you were not. As of that date, you were not. Yes, and I'll still stick to that. Here's my defense. Brandon Graham, left defensive end. Jalen Carter, left DT. Right DT, Fletcher Cox. Left defensive end, Josh Sweat. That's pretty, with Jordan Davis in rotation. Dude, that's a pretty damn good-looking front four. That's a pretty good-looking front four. Linebackers, Nolan Smith. I'm putting him at will. Nakobe Dean, MLB. Hassan Reddick, strong LB. So your front seven is Reddick, Dean, Smith, Sweat, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham. How you feeling about that? How you feel about that front seven? 6, 7. NFL should open the season with Eagles, Chiefs. They actually should open it up with Eagles and Jets, but the Chiefs have to have it. You know what I mean? Because they're the winners. I get it. Okay? How about you feeling about that front seven? Hassan Reddick, Nakobe Dean, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham. How you feeling about that? Okay? Backfield. James Bradbury. Now, this is my dream team. Terrell Edmonds, strong safety. Free safety, Sidney Brown. Can I tell you what Sidney and who Sidney Brown reminds me of? He reminds me of that Colt dude, Bob Sanders. He reminds me of Bob Sanders. You got Bob Sanders rolling around out there in your secondary? That's a tone setter. Then you got Darius Slay at the other corner. So let me just go like this to you. Bob Sanders is one of your safeties. Darius Slay and James Bradbury are your corners. Let's see, maybe they put Ringo in at the other side. Okay? Love Lewis Oliver. Lewis Oliver, dear friend. I know, he's a Gator. Then again, hey, I told you, I'm getting over the fact that Howie's a Gator. Howie, I know you watched the show. Sorry, dude. Maybe my animosity towards you started there. because you're a Gator. And I mean, Hurricanes and Gators, dude. At the end of the day, you're a GM now, so you've kind of gotten over it, and I still haven't. So what's really suck ass about everything here, I have more Gator friends now than I've ever had in my life, and I totally hate it. When I played, I had no Gator friends. Now Lomas Brown and Crawford Kerr and Lorenzo Hampton, Neal, David Williams, all these guys, man. Wilbur Marshall. I'll tell you a quick Wilbur Marshall story. So we're playing them up there at Florida. Man, best team money could buy. They had this thing called the Bull Gator. I don't know, maybe Howie donates to it. It's called the Bull Gator Group. He knows what I'm doing. Howie, you know what I'm talking about here. I know you watch the show. Howie, Bull Gator, you know what Bull Gator is, okay? It's everybody donating to the Gator program. I'm very sure Howie's part of the Bull Gators. Somebody should ask him if he's a Bull Gator. Guarantee you, Howie Roseman's a Bull Gator. Okay? So Wilbur Marshall just tears Alonzo Highsmith up, who turned out to be the third pick in the draft. And everyone goes like this to him when he walks off the field. Yeah, you'll like this. And, you know, you could see Wilbur talking to him. Everyone's like, what'd he say to you? Well, Wilbur said he was going to kill me. And we all went like this. Well, what'd you say to him? He goes, I told him I believed him. Oh, man. Man, Wilbur put the fear of God in you, man. He put the fear of God in you. Wilbur Marshall, dude. Okay? Wilbur Marshall put the fear of Jesus Christ in you, man. A Bull Gator, GG, is a guy who's a big donor and supporter of the Florida football program. And I guarantee you, if anybody in the Philly media, when Howie, next time he's in front of a mic, goes, hey, by the way, are you a Bull Gator down with the Gators? I'd love somebody to ask that because that means he gives money. You're not a Bull Gator unless you give money. That thing's one of the richest. I don't know what Bama's is called. I know what Clemson's. It's called IPTAY. It's I pay $30 a year. You could pay $30, $30,000, $300. Yeah, it's that Clemson has one of those. Okay? Maybe John McMullen can ask Howie Roseman if he's a Bull Gator. John, don't, man. Don't. You may get your key fob taken from you. Don't ask him if he's a Bull Gator, man. Because that's kind of like a secret. That's kind of like a secret organization. That's what got Charlie Pell fired, because the Bull Gator guys were paying all them guys to go to Florida and play. You don't think there's a coincidence that Lorenzo Hampton and all them guys who were up there playing running back were all first-round draft choices? How do you think they got there? Well, because they like playing at Florida. What is it, Lorenzo Neal? The guy that played in Chicago who took over for Walter Payton was a first-rounder too. They had 3 ones playing running back, running downhill at us. They had Wilbur Marshall on the other side. How do you think all those guys got to Florida? Oh, because they wanted to be Gators. Sure. Howie's a Bull Gator. I know he is. By the way, we're going to draft every single one of the starting 22. Who would be the number 1 overall selection by you if you had to draft the Eagles? We're going to do that here in a second. So what do you make of my team? Anderson, that's right, was Anderson. I played against him when he was in Chicago with the Bears. Neil Anderson. Lorenzo Hampton. There was another guy up there too that was in that backfield, that Florida backfield. They were all 3 ones. They all went in the first round. Really psychotic. Hey, here's my starting team. Hurts, DeAndre Smith, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez, Dallas Goedert, Mulata, Dickerson, Kelsey, Cam Jurgens, Lane Johnson on offense. Brandon Graham, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, Hassan Reddick, James Bradbury, Terrell Edmonds, Sidney Brown, Darius Slay. Dude, that's a hell of a football team. That's a hell of a football team. Or how about this? Let's be fair about this team, okay? It lacks experience. It's got a lot of talent, and you're younger. You're younger in your DTs. You're younger now at the edge. You're getting younger in the secondary. You're get this. You're completely young on the left side of your O-line. And if your right guard pans out, 3 of your 5 starters could play for next 10 years in your offensive line. They're getting younger on the fly. They're getting younger on the fly. See, I don't want to run the 34. I don't want to run the 34. I don't think the special teams, agreed. Special teams has to be addressed. I completely agree with that. Completely agree. Oldest player, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's either Kelsey or Brandon Graham, right? It's either Kelsey or Graham. I don't think he can run the 34. Sills, who did you pick as the slot corner? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. My secondary is shaping. My secondary, I went Bradbury, Terrell Edmonds, Sidney Brown, and Darius Slay. That's my secondary. I think this kid Brown's going to start. I think Brown's going to start. And if it were me, I would try to do everything to get that Nolan Smith guy on the field and put him in positions to win. Dude, putting that Nicholas Morrow guy in the field, he's a guy. You hear what John said too, McMullen? That guy didn't get 1 guaranteed cent. I don't know if he makes the team. Sills running a 4-4. I totally love that. Why not? Like this, look. Somebody said something to me about putting a chalkboard. That's a great call. Let's do this here. Here, let me show you how I want my defense to look. And let me show you how I want the defense to look. So we're going to do like a chalkboard. That's the O-line. And I'm going to put on the other side now how I want my defense and how I think the Eagles should put their players on the field. Is that fair? Let's use kind of a chalkboard here. Okay. Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, BG, Nolan Smith, Nakobe, Hassan. This is how I want it to look. There's your visual. See this here? And the guy who is the worst tackler, put him on the short side of the field so that you can use the sideline to defend. Okay? Because he's not your better cover guy or tackle guy. This guy over here runs a 4.39. I want to take complete advantage. And why I'm comfortable with Nakobe Dean in the middle here is why. You have these two dudes. And by the way, if you want to slide him into a 1 technique, okay, put him into 1. right there. You could slide this guy, then you slide it to strength, slide him to a 3. Here, I'll show you what a 3 and a 1 is. 3, 1 technique, 2 technique, 0 technique. That's a 3 on the outside shade of the guard. 2 technique is head up. 0 technique is head up over here over the center. And you could put a 1 technique right here. Same on the other side. But what you do is you rotate and slide. So if you have a 1 technique over here, Jalen Carter is going to be in a 3 technique. And you slide your defensive tackles to strength or to formation. Say they run a strong set or a brown set or a red set. This guy right here has to dictate this because he's setting the fronts. The middle linebacker is your quarterback on this side of the ball. So what he does is when that formation comes out, he's got to look at formation down a distance, hash mark, where you are, and he's going to set the front and the strength of the front. If this is the wide side over here, this will be the 3 technique traditionally. And this guy over here will slide to a 1 technique or a shade or a tilt on the center, depending on what formation and techniques they want to run, depending on what kind of team they're playing. Okay? This guy right here is like your center quarterback. He sets the front. He sets the technique. He also does this. If there's a tight end over here on this side, he could call a stunt. And he could call a twist over here between Nolan Smith going inside. Say Nolan Smith, say they run a twist technique. Nolan Smith will go inside. BG will set the perimeter. Always know this. When you're running games out here, someone always has to have the edge. When you're bringing this guy, say, inside here, BG comes outside. Here, let me go this way. Or Smith goes out. Smith goes outside, and BG does an inside rush. All of this is communication. That's why everyone is looking at Nakobe now playing the middle linebacker here. He's got a lot of responsibilities for not playing. The key to this whole thing is these 2 guys out here, Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham. Got to set the edges. And you see, to me, with Reddick in the short side, this is just me talking here. I'm not saying they'll run it, but this is me talking here. Okay? Reddick's not a good tackler. Reddick's not a good cover guy. Put your more athletic guy who's over here on the white side of the field. Now, it's a lot of responsibility for a young player. This is how the secondary will look. Okay, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom, 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 boom. This is Slay. This is Edmonds. This is Brown. And this is Bradbury. That's how your defense is going to look. Okay, here's your secondary here. Slay, Edmonds, Brown, and Bradbury. Okay, Reddick over here. Dean in the middle. Nolan Smith here. Brandon Graham setting the edges. JC here. Fletcher Cox here. And Josh Sweat here. That's how your defense will look. Now, remember something. This kid's lighting the britches here. But your 2 dudes in front of you can't get knocked off the ball. So, if you feel like you're getting knocked off the ball, what do? You take one of your backers out and you slide your backers. One guy over the guard, one guy over here, and you slide Dean over here, and you drop Jordan Davis on the nose. If you're getting killed in this front, You take one of your pass rushers out because you got to stop the run. Okay? You take one of your pass rushers out. You slide Dean here. You bring in Reddick, put him over the guard as well, and then you put Fletcher Cox here. Or Jordan Davis. Your talent is here, not here. This guy's talented as a rusher, but outside of pass rushing, inexperience, don't know yet. Nolan Smith. Up here is all your experience, all across the board. And you can hide Jalen Carter in here. Why? We got Fletcher Cox on one side, Brandon Graham on the other side, and you got Josh Sweat on the other side. The one thing that you're going to have in this defense that they did a really good job of last year, they set the edges. Okay? They set the edges. That's what your defense is going to look like right there. Slay, Edmonds, Brown, Bradbury. This is how I would play it. Reddick, Dean, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat. Make sense? Okay? And if you wanted to go nickel, you bring Avonte Maddox back here. I don't believe in Reed Blankenship. Sorry. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. Or Ringo, if Ringo's good enough. What you do is you slide Jalen Carter or Fletcher over the nose, and you take out this tackle, or you take out this tackle, you put Fletcher over the nose, and you drop another guy either in the linebacker position. You don't have the linebacker position. You put him back here in center field. Put him right there in the middle on 3rd and long. Okay? See, to me, you don't have enough personnel here yet. You don't have the personnel to add a linebacker. You have the personnel to add a secondary guy. Avonte Maddox, Reed Blankenship, Ringo, Brown, Avonte Maddox. You got more personnel back here to do that with. You don't have linebacker personnel to be playing with LBs on the field. You've got to be playing with these guys. Okay? Does this make sense? So you've got to look at what's in the best interest of the Philadelphia Eagles when you're talking about putting your best players on the field in the best position. How would you start the game? I would start the game with this, with the forefront. 31 out of a 43, 3 technique, 1 technique. And I would put Jalen Carter, and you know why Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox have to start and not Jordan Davis? You can't put Jordan Davis in a 3 technique. And you have to slide your front to the hash mark or to the open end of the field. Sometimes a strong side, weak side. I don't want to be changing and interchanging every play my defensive tackle. That's the thing that's probably frustrated the Eagles a little bit, is that you can't put Jordan Davis in the 3 technique. And if you put Jordan Davis in the 3 technique, that means Jordan Davis has to line up on the shade of the guard over here on the white side of the field, and he's not a very good pass rusher. Carter is. You see, these 2 guys here in the middle, these 2 guys are more flexible. Both of them can play a 3 and a 1, and a 0 and a 2, and a shade 1, and a bear. See, these 2 guys here are more versatile than what Jordan Davis is. Jordan's a first and second down guy right now until he shows otherwise. Now, let's go here for it. Let Jordan Davis sets the table. He does not set the table. He's not versatile enough to play a 3-1, a 3 technique, or a 1 technique. What if all of a sudden you're on the right hash and that guy's got to be in a 3 technique? It's a waste. Arthur doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. 0 sets the table. He's not a 3 technique guy. He'll never be. These 2 guys can play 3 and 1. Okay? He's a 2-down DT right now until he shows. Now, here's one thing, though, that, again, Josh Sweat showed me last year. Josh Sweat showed me that he could become a 3-down D lineman. He developed into it. Maybe this kid does. Okay? But let's just say this. And I'm going to use the screen as the wide side. Say we have to go here, and this is the wide side, and here's the wide side of the field over here. Okay? Well, Jordan will turn to a 3. Fletcher will slide to a 1 technique inside here. And what you're trying to do is shoot the gaps. See, Jordan Davis can't play the 3 technique here. He's not good enough. He's not a 3 technique. He's a nose guard or a 1 technique or 2 technique at best. He can't slide to a 3. That's Bear tomorrow. Fletcher and Jalen Carter give you the flexibility in here to go to the wide side and strength of field. See, and what Brandon Graham does? Brandon slides out, wide 9, 7 technique, 5 technique. He slides out. This you have to understand. The NFL and playing defense is a game of angles. And what you're trying to do is get these players on angles. Okay? Here. Now, say the strength of the field is over here. Well, Fletcher goes to a 3. Jalen slides to a 1. And by the way, the linebackers slide. Secondary cheats a little. Okay? They'll cheat to the side of the strength of the field. Open end is strength. Or, depending on what Sean Desai is, it may go to formation. Because what will happen is a lot of teams, you see, on I think it's Wednesday, you get your playbook and you get your trend book. There's trends that what teams like to run out of. And I'll give you this. Here's the center, quarterback, this, tight end, slot, wideouts. Okay. What's the strength? What's the strength of this formation here? This is the center. That's your quarterback. That's your back, going 1 back set. That's your slot. That's your wideout. That's your other wideout. What's the strength of this team? What's the strength of this formation? You guys know? What's the strength of the formation? Nakobe Dean's got to know that. Determining factors will tell you what the formation is. Tight end could tell you what strength is, where you are in the hash, what side of the field you are, what open end. And also, the left side is the strength. This guy right here determines the strength because you're overloaded on this side. Now, if they drop the tight end on this side here, then it determines whether or not you're on the right or left hash. Okay? And your guy in the middle has to know all this. And so Dean, right now, it's so important that Nakobe knows. And isn't it weird that they haven't really introduced Sean Desai yet as your defensive coordinator? I don't know what that means. Okay? I don't know what that means. I don't know why they haven't. I think they haven't determined yet on how they're going to approach things. I agree with John McMullen. I think there's still I think John McMullen, I think he's right. They're probably going to run a variation of the same stuff that they ran last year. But again, you have that middle linebacker, man. He got what did John say? He got 30 snaps. Whew. Not only is he not able to play a lot of downs last year, which means he doesn't have a lot of game reps. And they're not big when it comes to exhibition football. I don't know where he's going to get his game reps from. And by the way, all these decisions have to be made within seconds. And what Jonathan Vilma told me was this. What you do as defense, and this is where Matt Patricia comes in. They're not going to line up in this defense right away. They're going to disguise it. They're going to all congregate right here in the middle. And then they're going to go to their positions. And then they're going to slide their fronts. This guy's got to know all this. A lot of pressure on that guy. Okay? A lot of pressure on him. Is it easy to identify strong side or of an offense? You have to know what trends. Here's what a trend is. Just so you know, Lipton, you have to know what trends are. What happens is they'll take the last 3 games of the opponent you're playing. Let's just say the Jets. That's not going to be fair because they'll take Rodgers' last 3 games because Nathaniel Hackett's going to be up there. And then they'll take a look at that's going to be a lot more homework because I hope they play the Jets later in the year so we get a better sense of what they're doing because you would have to watch Denver Broncos stuff and you would have to watch Packers stuff to prepare for the Jets game. And you would have to put a trend book together that way. Let's say Dallas because it's a common opponent. They'll take the last 3 games that Dallas has played. Then they'll take the last 2 games that you guys played and they'll take maybe some game film on teams that run RPOs. And what they'll do is they'll have a quality control guy break down first and second down, first and third, first and 10, second and 4, third and 9. And they'll start putting the top 25 plays together that a team likes to run. Remember, a team likes to run. And most teams today, because of these new gifted offensive coordinators, they have these boutique offenses. And what they'll do is they'll put these offenses together. So it's kind of hard sometimes depending on what kind of front you run. And so they'll do this. They'll go, okay, here's the last 3 games. Here's their top 25 favorite plays. They like to do this at a 2nd and 7. They like to do this on the plus 30. And that's why when Brady and Belichick were going over, Brady would be on one side of the tablet and Belichick would be on the other side. And Belichick would go, okay, 3rd and 7, nickel personnel. Brady would go slot, maybe a crossing route, maybe a wheel route here, depending on what the defense gives me, depending if the free safety sees it or not, depending on what side of the field, if we have strong or weak side strength. If I'm on the right hash, I want to go here. If I'm on the left hash, I want to go there. Okay? So to me, again, setting a strength, it depends on really what that team's trends have been the last 3 games and the times that you've played against them, what they like to do to you. That's why it's important to know when you play Washington or you play the Giants, you're not going to do anything that both teams don't know what you're going to do. That's why it's so impossible to beat those teams. You ever notice when you play or you watch Auburn versus Alabama or Miami back in the day versus Florida State or Florida, nobody was going to do anything we hadn't seen because we played each other every year. And we knew the players on the team and we knew the coaches because they all recruited us. We all played against them. Shit, sometimes we worked out together in the summertime. Everyone knew what was up. You're not going to fool anybody. That's why division opponents, that's why Washington beat the Eagles last year. They came up with a better game plan than they did in the first time around when they went up there. I mean, the common opponent one is always harder because you don't want to ever come out of your tendencies, especially if you're playing well. And that's what the Eagles did at the end of the year. One of the reasons why it looked a little chaotic, Hurts got hurt. Goddard got hurt. When Hurts and Goddard got hurt, that was a double-edged sword to them. And quite frankly, it really hurt them and their continuity. And that's kind of what went down that way towards the end of the year. And that's why it looked a little bit chaotic, especially when they got into the playoffs. So when you start losing pieces like that, it becomes an issue. All right. I'm going to take a timeout right now. I appreciate it. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show, the Power Hours.